Good afternoon, cabbies and cabettes. My name is Sean Paul Day and you are listening to London Taxi Radio. Now, Christmas is the time of year when the welfare of children tends to be at the forefront of people's minds. And there is no greater charity out there than the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children. The charity has been around since 1928 and they are famous for taking special needs and disadvantaged children to the seaside every year, as well as arranging, amongst other things, Christmas parties. They also provide funds for appeals to raise money for children in need of help. The committee exists on a voluntary basis and efficient management of donations goes straight back to the beneficiaries, which of course are the children themselves. So I'm mightily glad to be joined today by the man behind the charity, and he has made that perilous journey from Southend to join me today to talk about the good things that the charity is doing. So without further ado, I'd like to give a great big hearty festive welcome to Michael's son. Michael.
Hello, and it's lovely to see you, Sean Paul, and a big hello to all your listeners. I'm really quite thrilled to be involved in this. It's always an opportunity. We need that opportunity to talk about the charity so people know a bit more about our activities. As Sean said, the charity's been around since 1928. I haven't.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, I'm always taken by your youthful looks.
You're such a smoothie.
But even you are not 94 years old, are you?
Correct.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about its history, how it came about, and how you yourself got involved.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it started with, as you said, way back in time. There were 6 taxi drivers who used to reside in an orphanage in Norwood. And they eventually left, they grew up and left, and became Hackney carriage drivers. And during that period, these 6 cab drivers got together and they thought, well, they'd like to give something back to the children that are living in this orphanage now. So they decided to save up some money, which they did, and they went back to Norwood and started to take the children out on various outings. The first outing I think they took was lots of children to a trip around London, and then of course went to London Zoo, and that's how the charity started, and that's where it's grown. Every year, well, obviously we've had the pandemic to deal with, but every year we take the children to, say, Southend-on-Sea or any of these fantastic venues, which it could be a party at Christmas time, could be so many different things. And you've got to bear in mind, many of these children may not see another year, so we're happy to do something.
Well, I'll tell you what's interesting, Michael. At the beginning of lockdown, we started to transport children with social and educational needs to and from school. And I think ultimately we got about 30 other cab drivers involved in doing this work. And if you speak to those cab drivers now, a lot of them have kept in touch with those kids, and by extension with their families also, because there is a great deal of fulfillment gained from the connections they made with those children. And likewise with the charity, I know a lot of those cab drivers get a great deal of satisfaction by being involved in doing something for those kids. But my question is, how do you get in touch with these kids initially, and how do they qualify to benefit from the charity itself?
What we do, obviously, we have to market ourselves just like it's in the beans. So more and more schools and more families that have issues, especially financial issues, when they need to buy medical equipment or communicative equipment or recreational equipment for their kids, they can't seem to get the money from governments, and that's no political statement, it's just a fact of life.
Yeah.
So we step in, we get to hear about them, we scrutinise the appeals, which we have every month, and then what we do is to go out and either purchase any equipment or anything that they need to make life a lot easier, because it's important to know some of the parents, many of the parents and the schools and the children have to endure some really, really tough times. So we do step in and we help them financially. But how do we get the kids to go on outings? Sometimes we can't fulfill those needs. So what we do, we invite them to our outings. We could have 200 or 300 kids coming in convoys of black cabs going to Southend, for example, and that does help them. It gets the kids out. it gives the parents and the teachers a little bit of respite as well. So that's what we do. If there's anybody in need, if there's any kids out there that need help, all they've got to do is to write to us.
Well, tell us a little bit about the events. Tell us a little bit about the trips to the seaside, because it isn't just trips to the seaside, is it? It's events as well, and Christmas parties. Every year we have a big party, normally in January, and it's called the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. It's a post-Christmas event, which is, we all get such a kick out of it. Well, it's a great time of year to do it as well, isn't it? Because January can be quite bleak in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're thankful. We've been doing this for over 40 years at the Grosvenor House in London. And I think how it started...
Well, there's worse places.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But when you see the children coming in, it's an unknown event for them.
Yeah.
And when they see all the characters, the clowns, the music playing, and everything is laid out in the Great Hall, and they're just blown away with it. And it's a magical time for these children. So they get tea, they get entertainment. They get a lot of children entertaining children, children's groups and things like that. And they have these sandwiches and cakes and everything that we can throw at them. And sometimes we're lucky enough to get some celebrities that relate to the children, especially footballers, anybody that the kids know.
Can you name drop anybody?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell you a very brief story about one in particular. Gary Lineker.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Gary, and we've had Bruno, the boxer, and all the rest of those.
Really? Yeah, okay.
Over the time, we've had a lot. But to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know much about football. However,
Cabby, who doesn't know much about football.
And unfortunately, what happened, we were very, very busy. My colleagues were very, very busy in other areas at the Grosvenor House on the day. And one of the guys came over and said, "Oh, Gary Lineker's arrived. Can you go and meet him and just give him a cup of tea and jaw with him? And then he'll come down and we'll introduce him to the children." So I thought, well, I said, I don't know anything about football. And of course, Gary came in, and I introduced myself, and I said, "Gary, would you like a cup of tea and a sandwich?" He said, "Oh, that would be fine." I said, on the outset, "Gary, I can't tell you, I don't know anything about football." And he said, "Well, thank goodness for that." So we had a good conversation about all manner of things, and he came down. The kids loved him. And we had many, many celebrities over the years, too many that I can remember all. But they have a lot of affinity to what we do, and they're prepared to give their time to us, which is great.
It is expected as a cab driver that you know about football, isn't it? Because people get in the cab and they automatically want to talk about football to you, don't they?
I try. I was trying to watch England and France, but I couldn't deal with it. I don't understand
that's very high
it.
level football.
Yeah, I mean, we've never been brought up on football. All my friends have, and when they start talking to me about football, then they say, "Oh no, we're talking to you. You haven't got a clue, have you?"
Now, I'll tell you what, I think it was last year or a couple of years ago, I'm not sure. You know how time folds in half, doesn't
For sure,
it? And
yeah.
I think lockdown also skewed time, didn't it? But I was on Burlington Gardens, and you had the vintage cabs there.
Correct, yes.
And there's something about the vintage cabs, isn't there, that is so synergetic with London. And it doesn't matter where they pop up, they suit London, don't they?
Yeah.
People love them, and it seemed to go down really well. I think it was about this time of year as well, wasn't it?
Well, that's right. I happened to have spoken to a passenger some few years ago about what we do. And this young lady, she was the manager of Burlington Arcade. And she said, "Why don't you come down and raise funds down our place?" So I said, "That's a good idea." So one of my pals, he has a vintage cab, so he came along. And then we had a taxi, and we dress it up as a reindeer.
Oh, it was a reindeer?
Yeah,
I thought it was a mouse. I couldn't work
No, it was a reindeer.
work out what it was.
And it is such a hit down there. And the children come and they have photographs taken, and that's how we try and raise some money. And it's a really brilliant day. It's such a joyful day for everybody. And in the evening, maybe about 4 or 5 o'clock, I get a gospel choir to come along and sing to all the shoppers.
Oh, right.
Which is really good. I'm really been
well,
very
there's something
with
very
that.
Christmassy about Burlington Arcade as well, isn't it? It's a fantastic place just to walk through this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, and the management there and the shopkeepers, they love it. They love it. I can't say it attracts more shoppers for them,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
certainly they enjoy the joyfulness of the Christmas and what we try and do. And that's how we can also get our name. And I also have to say, Transport for London are very good to us, because we need those ranks suspended, so we can put our taxis on there.
But I think on this level, Transport for London are very good.
Yeah.
Definitely very good.
Yeah. I've always got a good word to say about. They really are fantastic for what we do. I'm not going to go into politics. That definitely not. That's not what we do. I will be here
till tomorrow.
No.
But maybe you want to talk a little bit about street collections, because at the moment there's a cost of living crisis.
Sure.
People are finding it very hard, and a lot of charities are suffering because of the cost of living crisis. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that, and maybe mention the benefactors for the charity, and how did you manage during lockdown, because that has been tough on all charities, hasn't it?
Most certainly. On that particular point, as we've just spoken about, we had the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, which had to be cancelled. But I had to think...
Was that last year? Or
Yeah,
last year.
And I had to think of a way how to keep the children involved in some way, and how to keep the parents involved in some way. So what I came up with an idea was, instead of having a Mad Hatter's Tea Party, we just had a Mad Hatter's competition. So the idea was to contact the children, contact the parents, of course.
I mean, that's a good idea in itself, isn't it, really?
And what we did was to offer prizes, financial incentives for the children to make these funny hats, and which proved to be good. So we created some interactive forms. They would make their hats, they would take a picture of them, and then we'll get it down the line. And then we chose maybe 3 winners. So the first prize, I think, was £250. Second prize was 150, and the other prize was about 100, and that hit the mark.
Yeah.
So I was really, really pleased with that. And it's just trying to keep them all engaged with what we do. Otherwise, it's very difficult, because once you don't do things, people forget you very quickly.
That's right, yeah. No, that's right. Especially at the moment when everything's about content, and keeping things in the forefront of people's minds, isn't it?
Yeah. It's also very important to try and get people involved. And I would say about 2011, 12 and 13, I thought, how could we get more people engaged? How could we do something that may be a little bit more unique to our charity? So what I decided to do, I was very involved with a classical music orchestra.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I asked them if they would help. So in the end, what we do, I called it...
Can we name them?
Yeah, well, they were called the London Charity Orchestra. And what we did, I produced about 3 concerts in St John Smith Square.
Oh, right.
And we had a lot of support, maybe 500 guests, give them a good night, knew about the charity, and then others that did start to know.
Are you musical yourself?
Let's put it this way. I've got an acoustic guitar, I've got an electric guitar, I've got a piano and a ukulele, and I can't play any of them. It's just time and being impatient with myself. But do I love music? Yes. I'm hoping next year, which, as you know, is our 95th anniversary, the orchestra I'm now patron of, they're called IC Sinfonietta, and they're based in Imperial College.
Oh, right.
So we're patrons of that, and we will follow them to listen to the music, to watch the students, because these students are fantastic.
So there'll be some collaboration next year, because like you said, next year, 2023, that's 95. You could say you're coming of age. That's a very big number.
Correct.
Isn't it?
It's quite a significant year next year. So I'm really delighted. But it's just trying to keep, as I said before, trying to keep ahead, trying to keep the kids and the parents and the schools involved.
Now, if anybody thought the charity was merely small fry, they'd be mistaken, because you've got significant patronage, haven't you?
Yes, we have. Some few years ago, we used to have a patron. Some may remember Billy Butlin.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And Billy Butlin and his wife were patrons. With the greatest respect to their memory, they didn't really do a lot for us. They
Right.
were a name on a bit of paper,
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
honest with you. And then they passed on.
Because everybody's heard of the name, haven't they?
Of course.
If you're of a certain age.
Oh, yeah. And then they passed on. We didn't have any patronages. And I thought, well, I used to do some stuff for the Prince of Wales, and used to help him in certain respects. About he wanted to do a party. Shall I say a party? It was a get together in Clarence House for the London black cab industry, including charities. And they asked me to try and get the invites to the right people, if you like. So good. And then I thought, well, I could just write to the Prince of Wales, as he was then, and of course the Duchess of Cornwall, which is Camilla, to see if they would consider an invitation to join our charity. The Prince of Wales, or now the King, couldn't, because I think he's patron of hundreds of these organisations. But the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, she said she'd be delighted to do that, and she's been with us for a long, long time. She has been invaluable.
Really?
She has been
In
invaluable.
what way? In what way?
Well, when she first became our patron, Christmas time again, she would invite children with special needs to Clarence House, and the pretext is that the children would come with their carers and help her dress the Christmas tree.
Right, yeah.
The adults didn't get a look in, it was the children. And we would all go into a suite, and the adults would get a drink. But then on a given time, the private secretary would come over to me and say, Michael, the food is ready for the children. The Duchess is there. And they would open doors to this beautiful boardroom with a boardroom table, lots of food, lots of presents. And they had a member of the household cavalry in his red uniform and his beefeater and holding a sword, and it was magical for the children, magical. And so that's how that started. Obviously, due to the pandemic, etc., and of course the diary of now the Queen Consort, it's been pretty difficult. But for those few years when we took those children in a convoy of cabs to Clarence House, meet with the Duchess of Cornwall, the letters I got from the parents and the carers just were unbelievable. And while we were there, I remember the Duchess of Cornwall called me over. He said, Michael, can I have a word with you? I said, yes, ma'am, what is it? She said, I don't know anybody like you. I said, I'm not sure if I think I get a guess what you mean. So she said, is it a good thing? No, very good thing. I think what it was, how I'm talking to your listeners is how I talk. It doesn't matter who you are. So she's been invaluable. And also 2019, before the lockdown, she invited all of our supporters, taxi drivers, to Buckingham Palace for a tea. And it was a day people still speak of.
Yes, of course.
And when you talk to people, if you're trying to get donations in, you're trying to promote your charity, high profile, if we can, we mention her name.
Well, it's
makes
something,
a difference.
of course, it's something, isn't it, having the Duchess of Cornwall as the patron.
Yeah.
But it really is something now because she's the King's wife.
Correct.
That's quite a big deal, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, she's still our patron. Nobody knows what's going to happen because it's early days yet, but she's still our patron and she still knows us. She talks to us, and as you most probably heard about the Paddington Bear project, I got a call just a few weeks ago, and the private secretary was saying, look, Michael, can you help the Queen? Can you do her a favour? I said, I can't, I don't know, I'm going to do her a favour. Yeah, of course. And they were looking for a couple of cabs to take the Paddington Bears to this nursery, which was Bernardo's nursery in Bow. And we were delighted, of course.
Yeah.
And two of my colleagues did that, and they were beside themselves with joy, because to scoot through London with the Queen Consort in the first taxi, and two other taxis and other vehicles, police outriders scooting around London, was just an experience that they
I saw
were relish.
footage of that on social media, and what a wonderful honour to be able to do that as well.
It was, and from that, when I started to talk to the young woman that runs the nursery and is involved with other areas, children maybe older than them, they're now involved with us.
So that was quite an invaluable contact to
Absolutely.
make at the time as well.
It's networking.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's basically what it is. So the beneficiaries are children, wherever they come from, whatever religion, whatever background, as they just come along and enjoy themselves just for that magical day.
And also, Michael, I think I've said this on a number of occasions, that the cab trade doesn't just have to be about pushing a cab around every day, does it? This industry has so many good things to offer that if you get involved in any one of them, and the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children is just one, then it makes you more invested in the trade itself, doesn't it? And of course, there are cab drivers out there that already volunteer their time, and the committee who volunteers their time. So we can't let this go by, can we, without giving them a great big shout out.
Well, I'm privileged to be the chairman of a lot of dedicated, and I mean absolutely dedicated, committee members.
Well, I saw Tony Moore the other night at a reprobates party. And he was looking great. The only problem with Tony is that with his very refined beard now, Tony, they might mistake him for a very dignified Santa.
Exactly. Exactly. You know? But these guys, we don't shout out too much about ourselves, what we do. But I'm very, very lucky to have such dedicated committee members and friends. And some of these guys have been committee members before they got married, maybe for 40 years. And they're still as dedicated now as they were then. And it's nice to have some new people come on board, which we have. We're always looking.
I know
for
Claire Bear's involved.
Claire is brilliant.
The thing is, when I saw the picture on your website, you've got a new picture up there of Tony, yourself and Claire. And I look at Claire and I look at Tony and I think, if an alien was to come to Earth, they wouldn't think they were the same species. No. Would they? Would they?
No, I suppose.
She's only a little one, isn't she?
I'm not going down that road.
You can hear Claire coming, generally.
Yes.
Even if you don't see her.
She's wonderful. And because she's our appeals liaison, she can talk to people. She has an idea of what they want, and they love to listen to her. And they're all fantastic. I'm not going to single out anybody because they all do the jobs that I tell you what it is. They enjoy what they do. Why? Because they're pretty good at what they do. And as we've mentioned that word, beneficiaries. And because they're good at what they do, they know what to do, and the beneficiaries are the kids. It's a win-win situation.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. So if cab drivers want to get involved, and there's no reason why they shouldn't, because it's a fantastic charity to be involved with, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I mean, I can give you my email address, which is fine, which is m.son@ltcfc.org.uk, or just log on to our website. Our website is www.ltcfc.org.uk. If you can't remember that, just look up the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children. We have a driver's form. We're always looking for new drivers, and they fill out the form, send it to us. We'll be in contact. They will have some of the fantastic days that they have. It's so nice to be able to give back for all the good things that you've had. Now just help some of the children. And of course also we can't do our work without donations, and there's an opportunity within our website to make a donation if anybody wants to do that.
And I've seen the website. I've gone to the website myself before, and it's a very straightforward website. Sometimes they're not, but this one is. And actually on the website as well, there's a lot of photographs, and you can see that the good work that the charity does. So it's a good place to visit. We'll put up all the details as well.
Oh, that's great.
We'll put up the social media details as well, because people generally gravitate towards social media. So we'll put those up as well for you. Is there anything you want to add? Because I know you've got your sleigh today to get back to the far distant South End, but is there anything else you want to add?
No, I just wanted to, on behalf of the committee and on behalf of the children, I just wanted to thank all of our supporters, but also I must thank the cab drivers that come and support us every year, come rain or come shine, or snow in this case. but they do give up a lot of time. Nothing is too much trouble for them. We're thankful. Without those taxi drivers, without the support of the black cab industry, it's going to be very difficult. I want to see more support. And I want us to something what we're doing here today is going to allow us to appeal to a wider audience.
Yeah.
That's all I've got to say. But my last point is, I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
And I wish you and all your listeners a Merry Christmas and a great New Year.
Brilliant. I also wish them all a Merry Christmas, and a Merry Christmas to you as well, Michael. And we've got to say, this won't be the last time we meet up. We'll have to do it more often.
It was delightful. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. Take care.
Thought you might say that.
London Taxi Radio, the cabby's choice.